Hello, Dr. Miaken Ziegler of Monarch Family Chiropractic. Welcome to our workshop this week. We are grateful to have you here. We are grateful to have you as a part of our practice and family. And we are grateful that you are joining us for, one of these workshops where we're covering something that really excites us as chiropractors, is looking at the brain and how the chiropractic adjustment impacts the brain. And so we're going to dive right in, talking about this myth buster of how chiropractic impacts the brain based on the research done by Heidi Haavik. So um, before we get into it, I just want you to meet the researcher because she's come out with some super cool research in the last 25, 30 years, and she's got a PhD in human neurophysiology. She's the director of research in New Zealand College of Chiropractic, and she is known for her groundbreaking research on the brain and spine connection. And what we see with her studies is that it's really bridging the gap between chiropractic and neuroscience. Here's her book that is called The Reality Check. You've probably seen it in the office, but it is written in layman's understandable terms, so that you can understand how your chiropractic care is benefiting your brain. So where I just want to start, and then we'll get into the myth, the chiropractic myth buster. But the spine is the gateway to your brain. And we want to talk about why spinal movement matters. So I want you to think about this safety pin cycle. Okay. If you ever look around the office, you'll see a ton of safety pins. Okay. Right. And there's our safety pin. So if this is our brain up here, and here's our body down here, you've got constant signals that are connecting between the brain and the body. The brain is talking to the body, and the body's talking to the brain, saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is the response we need. Now, when we talk about subluxation, that means that there is a disconnect between the brain and the body here. And so that slows information down. That makes it more challenging for the brain to understand what's going on in the body and vice versa. Okay, so your spine sends constant signals to the brain about your body position. We call this proprioception. So proprioception is really the sixth sense. So I know that my hand is, behind my back right now, not because I see it or taste it or smell it, but that I just know. That's proprioception. So when you have misalignments, we call it subluxation. It disrupts the input, leading to poor sensory integration, right? We have our five senses of what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we hear, what we touch, and then we have proprioception. So how all of those sensory inputs are integrated for our brain to experience the world, right? When we have subluxation, it disrupts that input. So the two biggest ones of the five are visual input. Okay, what we see visually, a lot of times vision will, it will make up for what the signaling that we're receiving from our body otherwise. It'll make up for that. So if you ever try and do anything with your eyes closed, try and balance on one foot, you'll find that with your eyes closed, it's very different. And that starts to tell you, okay, how is your brain integrating sensory input outside of the visual cortex? The other one is movement, is touch. Okay, and that's where the subluxations, the misalignments really fall in terms of how our brain is receiving information through movement. So when we have healthier spinal movement, we have a better brain-body connection. And that is the goal of chiropractic, is to restore clarity in this neural messaging, this continual loop here of brain-body connection. The freer and clearer that communication happens, the better the brain is constantly receiving good sensory input to have good, healthy output. And I want to just go straight to some of the things that Heidi Haavik has put together here. So we're going to watch just a short video. And I want to make sure as I share this that you're getting the sound. Okay.
You may be wondering if spinal dysfunction really can affect you.
Let me pause this. So she's using spinal dysfunction. I want you to think about spinal dysfunction as the same as subluxation. When researchers are getting their research out, sometimes they have to play with different verbiage that works with the journal. So you'll see spinal dysfunction, segmental dysfunction, you'll see subluxation, you'll see misalignment. So I want you to just understand when she's saying spinal dysfunction, she is talking about subluxation. Okay.
You may be wondering if spinal dysfunction really can affect your brain. So let's look at some very interesting research that has explored exactly this. A group of New Zealand-based researchers and another group in Canada have over the past 10 years done many experiments comparing brain function in people with a history of spinal dysfunction and a group with no spinal problems whatsoever. The spinal dysfunction group was called the subclinical pain group because they were not in any kind of pain on the days of the experiments, but they had a history of spinal problems. So subclinical pain refers to people who have recurring spinal dysfunction, such as mild pain, ache or stiffness, with or without a history of known trauma. There is an increasing interest in subclinical pain in the scientific literature because individuals who fall into this category provide an opportunity to explore how spinal dysfunction affects their brain without the complications of current pain, because pain itself is known to alter brain function. We already know that once you are feeling pain, it changes how your brain functions. But what the research on subclinical pain is showing us is that even just mild recurring spinal problems, even on days you feel no pain, can also alter how your brain functions. Let's take a closer look at some studies that have compared these people with subclinical pain with people who have never ever had any spinal problems at all. Well, this is where it gets interesting. The brains of people with a history of spinal dysfunction are less accurately aware of where their arm is when they close their eyes. You need your brain to know accurately where your arms are all the time to be able to move without having injuries. Another study showed that the brains of people with spinal dysfunction were slower at mentally rotating objects in space compared with a healthy control group. This suggests that your brain's ability to mentally rotate objects is affected by the function of your spine. We need to mentally rotate objects in space all day, every day, but we often don't think about the fact that we do this. Being able to accurately perceive where you are and where your arms and legs are is very, very important. You need to know where you are to be able to move without having accidents. And it's also very important to be able to accurately perceive the world around you. This is a vital skill we need all day, every day. To recognize some objects, you may need to mentally rotate them. For example, to recognize the letter P versus the letter B, if they are not upright, you would need to mentally rotate them in your mind to figure out which letter it was. We all mentally rotate shapes and objects that we see, but we do not often think about that we do it, or how important it is for our daily life. Another study conducted in Canada recorded brainwave responses to mild electrical stimulation at the wrist, before and after a 10-minute task where they had to do precise movements of their hands. There were significant differences between the spinal dysfunction group and those who had healthy spines, demonstrating again that the brains of those with mild recurring neck pain, even on days they had no symptoms at all, process sensory and movement information in a different way compared to people with totally healthy necks. They also found that only the healthy neck group could remember or learn the hand movements, but the neck dysfunction group could not. So even this kind of mild neck dysfunction was changing the way the brains were able to learn movement patterns. In another study, scientists in Canada found that individuals with poorly functioning necks are not as good at processing sensory information from their different sensory organs, like their eyes and ears, compared with people with healthy necks. Being able to accurately process multimodal sensory information becomes very important as we age, as poor multimodal processing is a risk factor for falls in the elderly. This is where chiropractic could help. Chiropractic care has been shown to improve the way older adults process sensory information together from their ears and eyes. A study was conducted in Auckland, New Zealand, with 60 older adults, half of whom received 3 months of chiropractic care, and the other half that did not. Those who received chiropractic care were better able to accurately perceive sound and visual information at the same time after the chiropractic care. Adjusting dysfunctional spinal segments, or what chiropractors call vertebral subluxations, has also been shown to improve the brain's ability to perceive where the arm is in space when subjects close their eyes. This was in the same group mentioned earlier who had a history of spinal dysfunction.
Okay, I'm going to stop that right there and go back to our PowerPoint. So what was fascinating about what I heard in Heidi's presentation there was when you have altered movement in the spine, what we call subluxation, misalignments, and these subclinical groups of people who maybe have stiffness, decreased ranges of motion, but they're not quite at pain yet. It's impacting their brain's understanding of where their body is in space, that proprioception. It's impacting how they can visually and take visual input and integrate what they're seeing, you know, and rotate those symbols to actually be able to comprehend those symbols. I heard memory components and fine motor function. So even when you're not experiencing any type of pain, but you have just restriction and tightness, it's impacting how your brain is perceiving and integrating your world, impacting how you can use executive function to be your best day to day. And so here's where the myth comes into play. What we thought was chiropractic addresses only the spine, the muscles, and the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system being the nerves. So your central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. Your peripheral nerves are the nerves that exit out of the spine. Okay. So what we used to think is that a subluxation alters that nerve input coming from the spine and out. What Heidi's research is actually showing us is that it has nothing to do with the peripheral nerves. It has everything to do with the brain. Okay, so the chiropractic adjustments impact the brain. It takes stress off of the nervous system, specifically the central nervous system, and allows the brain to better integrate all sensory input coming in to create a different output. So when we look at this, you've all received this. You've seen this in the office. This is a nerve chart. Okay. We love our nerve charts because it shows you all of what the nervous system controls and coordinates of organs and structures in the human body. And I just blew up what is happening in the upper cervical spine. And when you look at, some of these possible symptoms, it makes sense that we might see torticollis in a little kiddo, okay? Or, might make sense that we see torticollis or impacts with the ears. headaches and migraines, vertigo, vision, TMJ. Um, you know, if we look at speech challenges, but when we look at some of these other things, right? Difficulty sleeping, low energy and fatigue, allergies, immune deficiencies, depression, high blood pressure, those are more systemic challenges, right? They're not necessarily regionally based. I mean, we can break down what's happening in the nervous system and talk about your vagus nerve and your polyvagal system, which has massive impacts on your ability to down-regulate when in a stressed state and rest and digest and recover. But what we're seeing is, again, it has everything to do with the brain as opposed to these peripheral nerves that are coming out. Okay, so we've got this whole spinal chart that looks at regionally what we see the peripheral nerves are connected to, but the peripheral nerves are connecting to the greater system of your central nervous system. So that's why when you do get an adjustment in your upper cervical spine, you can have people who experience relief into their low back, or change in sleep or change in gut health. One thing I always like to share is my mom was having chronic foot pain, like 9 months of chronic foot pain. I adjusted her shoulder and her foot pain went away. Why? I don't know. And when we take stress off of the nervous system, our body functions differently. So we don't take credit for the healing that happens. We are just removing the interference. Your body does the healing. But that is the myth that your chiropractic addresses the spine, the muscles, and your peripheral nervous system. No, no, it impacts the brain, which is so cool. Every time you get adjusted, another research put out by Heidi, Dr. Haavik, is that we see upwards of 20% increase of prefrontal cortex activity following one adjustment. Prefrontal cortex is this outer region of the brain, executive function, goal-oriented tasks, decision-making, focus and concentration, how you interpret and perceive pain, how you manage emotional stress and trauma. So it's much bigger than, say, the back pain or the headache or the neck pain. So chiropractic and brain function. What Heidi Haavik's research shows is that adjustments affect how the brain processes sensory information. It shows improved function in your prefrontal cortex, which I just shared, key for decision-making, focus, emotional regulation. Every time you get adjusted, you can have upwards of 20% increased function there, which is awesome. That's why we love when people get adjusted in the morning. It's setting the tone for how you operate and function for the rest of the day. Enhanced sensory motor integration, so how the brain is interpreting and reacting to movement and touch, which is so cool. You know, we can change and support a healthier brain response when you're getting chiropractic care, not just in terms of how you're feeling or your structure, which again is a benefit, is an awesome benefit, especially if you're in acute pain. And that's why you see we have people in the practice who've been around for 5, 10, 15 plus years because they want the benefits of the adjustment, not just in how they feel, but how they function, not just in their body, but their brain, right? And every time you get adjusted, it's helping that brain better integrate, better access executive function to support you living and doing what you need to do. As a mom, right? As a parent, as a sibling, as a colleague, as an employee, as a business owner, whatever it may be, the roles that you take on, the better you are experiencing your world and seeing the reality as it is versus as you are, better you're able to function. Okay, so nervous system regulation. We see when you get adjusted is it helps balance your autonomic nervous system. So I want you to think about your autonomic nervous system as your automated nervous system, okay? This is something that is just programmed to respond based on responding to risk and stress, and if your life is in danger or if your life is not, right? You've got your sympathetic nervous system, stress response, If you walk into a dark alley and you see a lion, your system is automatically going to go into a stressed state to protect you from a threat. Okay, so it's going to increase your heart rate. It's going to dilate your eyes so that you can see. You're going to feel your adrenaline rush. You're going to feel blood shunt from vital organs to your muscles to power your muscles so you can respond to that threat. It makes sense. And we don't have lions in dark alleys anymore. We have traffic and we have schedules and timelines related to, and deadlines at work. We've got stress related to families and all the things that come with a modern lifestyle. We're still responding like we are physically in danger, and yet we're not physically in danger. But our body responds like it is. So adjustments can help reduce that stress response and shift our system into more of a parasympathetic balance to rest and digest, to relax, to better manage and monitor how we respond to the stressors, to respond differently. So that's where we see people often experience feeling calmer, more focused, less anxious after getting an adjustment. One thing we hear regularly is improvement with sleep. Oh, I slept better. Again, sleep is a parasympathetic function, rest and digest. So it's allowing for the body to go into a state of rest and recovery because the body is not, and the brain specifically is not experiencing the world and perceiving the world as a threat, which is massive. If we can better balance our autonomic nervous system, maybe we'd have less road rage, right? Or less trauma that we experience because parents are better able to be more resilient and adaptive with the needs of kids. You can go down the line of what happens when we're in a stress state and a chronic stress state, how it impacts our community and our world around us. Not only, people around us, but us particularly, and how we age. So consistent chiropractic care to help with brain and nervous system regulation can be massive in terms of how you're aging. So we also see improved brain body performance. That's why you see these professional sports teams have chiropractors on staff, chiropractors who adjust before, during, after games, because we see following an adjustment, increased reaction time, meaning they can react more quickly to respond to something that's coming at them. Better motor control, better coordination and posture, enhanced cognitive clarity and focus. Athletes often report performance improvements after regular adjustment, increased strength immediately. So when you're talking about a professional sports team, I think they're going to do anything they can to get the edge, to support, can I get the win here to put us on track for, the championship. And, what you do is just as valuable and just as important as our professional athletes. You need to be the best mom or dad. You need to, be able to commit and show up to work and be as efficient as possible so that you can go home and be done for the day. You need to be, the best you, so that you can, perform and be healthy at your best. So you are just as important as any professional athlete. It just requires a lot more work to be invested and disciplined in doing the things that bring and manage your health. So chiropractic is brain-based healthcare. It's much more than just back pain. Dr. Kristen and I call ourselves chiropractors, brain-based chiropractors, because we are measuring how your nervous system is adapting and responding to your chiropractic care through our re-exams that we do regularly to assess your function. Every adjustment affects your brain function. Every adjustment. And every adjustment builds on the next. It supports neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to adapt and grow. It helps your body adapt to stress, heal faster, function better, and it enhances your overall quality of life. And you know what the beauty is of that? We're not, giving you anything from an outside in approach. We are allowing for your body to do what it's meant to do on its own. You have everything you need within you to experience a higher expression of health. You don't need any more from the outside. You just need no interference. And when we look at subluxation and how it impacts and alters the brain's perception and the brain's ability to integrate, and if it's been doing that for years and decades without knowing, then that's where you see the massive changes of an adjustment turning your power on. You talk to Dr. Heidi Haavik, based on her research that she's been decades into, she's realizing that, people aren't getting adjusted enough. That's how much the brain is under stress. And if you can get more consistent and frequent chiropractic care over the long term, we see healthier individuals who are aging and experiencing a different trajectory compared to our standard American lifestyle in person. And again, people who choose chiropractic care consistently, I would say that's not a norm, right? If you are under consistent chiropractic care, whether it's been a year or multiple, I'm sure there have been people in your life who've said, why are you still going? You're not in pain. And that's because they don't understand the benefits and the impacts that chiropractic care has on your brain and body. And that's where they just need to understand and know. Because if you want the standard American, results of chronic disease and, aging is more arthritis, inability to move, dying in pain or with diagnosis, having multiple prescription meds you're on, then if you want something that's different, you've got to do something that's different. And that's what chiropractic offers. It offers a better brain that's turned on, more resilient, and somebody who is better connected starts to make different choices when it comes to lifestyle. So tap into your brain's full potential. Chiropractic adjustments are literally neural upgrades. It is your brain getting updated on a regular, consistent basis. Whether you're an athlete, a busy parent, seeking calm in the chaos, your brain benefits. And I mentioned this, according to Dr. Heidi, adjustments don't happen frequently enough. Everyone should be checked by a chiropractor, period. And that's where I want to end today. Who do you know? Who do you know that needs the benefits or needs to hear the benefits of chiropractic or needs to understand there's a different choice they can make for a different outcome based on their health? We have an appreciation week coming up in May 12th. That's next week. And that's where we open up time slots on our schedule so that you can refer in your family and friends to experience chiropractic care at no cost to them. We do this because we want to support a healthier community. There is, there's no pressure there. This is just something that we give freely of our hearts and our purpose to support somebody getting to know what's available to them. Whether they choose care or not, that's not on us, that's on them. That's not on you, that's on them. But I would say most of the time, we hear from people, why didn't somebody tell me? I wish I would have known this 5, 10, 20 years ago. Why didn't somebody tell me? And I hate to hear that because 5, 10, 15 years, you could do massive changes. You can do massive changes now. But the earlier people know to make changes and to commit to something like chiropractic care is really putting you on a different trajectory. And that's what we want for everybody. So that's what my ask would be of you is who do you know that you can share chiropractic with and share our Patient Appreciation Week with, which is happening next week. We have time slots available. And once they're gone, they are gone. And for those of you who choose chiropractic on a regular basis, who have been with us for years and decades, we honor you. It is a choice that not many people are willing to make. It is one of principle and honor to continue to invest in your health and well-being. on a regular basis, despite what you hear either from your social circles or you read, somewhere else. Investing in your health is worth it. One of the quotes that I've heard multiple people just appreciate is that, health and being healthy is a full-time job. And being sick is, no, it's health is hard work. Choosing to be healthy is hard work. And being sick is a full-time job. So for you who show up, we appreciate and love you. Thank you for being here. Dr. Miaken Ziegler, Monarch Family Chiropractic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this workshop. So go and leave a comment or certainly fill out a spinal workshop takeaway when you're in the office, and look forward to seeing you in the office. Take care.